Hey, good afternoon, and welcome to today's episode of Boss Talk. We're happy to be live here this afternoon at the newly renovated Station 25. Things are up and running pretty well here. Just a few things left to do at the station. You haven't seen it, you should stop by. They did a really nice job of changing the place out, without a doubt. Anyway, today we're going to talk about a house fire that occurred in 25's area about a month or so ago. Today we're including the incident commander for a couple reasons. One, there was nothing super special about the house fire, but we have it as a complete incident. We have some good audio, some good video. We have some seasoned company officers that were on the event, and we have a battalion chief, Chief Blake, who has been a battalion chief now for about 2.5, 3 years. And we're interested in hearing some about the role of the captain and the company officer related to the battalion chief and vice versa. We've had some recent promotions. We've got a captain's exam coming up. So we thought that this would be a good incident to kind of review a bunch of stuff related to that. As always, if you are a certified chief officer looking for COPDI credit, make sure that you sign in now with your fire service ID and your last name, and then do the same at the end of the episode. And Chief Thomas will work to get you COPDI credit. The other thing... and always, if you're watching as a group from a firehouse, would like to know what shift and station you're watching from and how many people are watching with you. That just helps us in checking our viewing numbers. And I thought about, a while back we had Lieutenant Escalero on, and one of the statements that he had made about telling the stories that I thought was important, and I'd like this to be our mantra as we continue to go forward with the Boss Talk, is he made a quote that said, hey, tell your story in a way to benefit others. And I think that's what's important, right? Nobody is looking for anybody to check the box on anything of what we're doing here. We want to hear stories from the folks about the incident, what they did, why they did them, what they were thinking about. And we always ask them, hey, if you were to go again, what would you do differently? Last week we had all the water rescues. That was pretty darn impressive, right? Watching that, listening to those people talk about what they did. Today we're going to hear about a house fire. We have all experienced company officers in this. Want to hear what they did and so forth. So that's it. I'm going to turn it over to Captain Brady Miller, and he's going to be your moderator for today. I'll hop in if any questions pop up on the YouTube Live. Captain Miller.
Chief, thank you very much. Everybody, welcome back. Here we are just a week after we did our last Boss Talk with the Twin Brook Parkway water rescues. First, I'd like to welcome Chief Blake, 5th Battalion on the A shift, Captain Potter here at Company 25 on C shift, Captain Ford, 18 on the C shift, and Captain Dominic, also here at Company 25 on the B shift. So I really don't, I don't know if I care for the term bread and butter. But certainly the event that we're talking about today isn't as complicated, or seemingly isn't as complicated as the event last week. So it's nice to hear, we were hearing and we're talking about the same things really all the time. Today what we're going to do, we're going to start out with a little bit of video from the battalion buggy. This actually comes from Chief Blake's car. So there's some audio in it as well. We don't have the dispatch audio, but you'll be able to hear it with a little bit of this video.
Able 725 Charlie, double cover.
Able 725 Charlie.
Yeah, working fire. On the scene, 1-story, single family. Got smoke shown from the roof. All occupants are accounted for.
Okay, 725 Charlie on the scene with smoke showing from the roof.
7 Troy Road.
1222. Okay, battalion 704 on the scene.
40 to 18, you all layout? Yeah, we're going to split it at Birdie Bush, and in Village. English in Village. Only one's a 4, I'm splitting at Burning Bush and Beaverwood. Taking it 2921 Beaverwood.
Where'd that guy come from?
2921 Beaverwood, got it.
Battalion 704 is stationary command post side A. One story, single family, fire showing from the roof. One story in the rear with a walkout.
Patrol 5, Burning Bush Lane, crossing Village Lane. Rapid intervention dispatch on the house fire.
All right, so just as a reminder for everybody, the box alarm was company 18, the engine order was 1840, 21, 4, and then 25. Company 25 was clearing CMF. The truck order was 25 and then 18, and the rescue squad was Wheaton's rescue squad, so rescue squad 742. So I'm going to start out. Generally, the way we do this is, Captain Ford, we start out with the engine officers. You were riding the tower that day from 18. Unfortunately, Lieutenant Aquino couldn't be here. Can you kind of, as a shift officer, do you generally ride the tower?
Most of the time, we kind of do both, but
Okay.
I generally ride the tower.
Okay. Can you kind of walk me through some of his actions to the best of your knowledge? And Chief, I know that you said you had a discussion with him prior to coming, but let me talk to the captain first.
Well, when the dispatch at all, I think battalion chief was in quarters, the engine in quarters, and tower in quarters. So the battalion chief got out first, of course. Then Aquino on the engine, they got out, and we followed in tower. And generally Aquino goes down. He usually kind of holds off to look up the hydrant to find out where he's going to lay out from, as you heard on the video. And then him and his crew went through the first door, went through the side alpha door.
Okay, so no, and the run from Company 18 is to down Georgia to a right on Hewitt?
Yes, right on Hewitt. I think they went Riplin Brook, and then just what did y'all turn on, Chief?
I went Hewitt to
Into the backside of that.
Yeah, they went to the backside.
Okay. And then I'm going to move, thank you, really right over, and no issues. We didn't have any issues.
No issues.
With the layouts from the first or
we
the
had a
third.
water supply. They picked the appropriate line. They went to the front door.
Backside water supply was no issues.
Yeah,
Same,
yeah,
good.
Captain Dominic. Yeah.
Okay, and I'll get to Captain Dominic in a minute, but I'm going to go to the truck.
Yep.
So, Captain Potter, the truck was the first heavy piece of apparatus there, correct?
Correct.
Before that, though, who arrived on? Somebody gave an on-scene report. Who was that?
That was our chase car and the ambulance that was clearing a medical call in the area.
Okay, so can you tell what was their on-scene report? Did you hear? I heard one-story single-family dwelling, fire showing. I didn't hear where
Smoke
it was
showing.
from, and the occupants were accounted for.
Correct.
So, kind of just from a company officer stance, do you talk about on-scene reports from units, from all units? I know we talk a little bit about recruit school, but it's not really a topic that's broadly discussed.
Yeah, I mean, especially during lineup and with junior members that are moving up in rank. Fire 3 was the one that gave the report. We try to mentor that to our people as to, if you're the first one on the scene, you're in charge right now, so you need to set the running order. You need to tell us what's going on so we know how to make any adjustments.
Do you ever address anything like command with that discussion, or?
We've talked about it, but we haven't really practiced too much. We have a fairly young shift, so we haven't, but it's something that we should look into, because situation like this, it definitely helped.
Would it be your the on-scene report? I completely agree.
Yeah.
Would it be your expectation as a captain to kind of want guys to go through the command motions?
Sure. So they have a better understanding of what we expect from them. If they understand why we're doing what we're doing, it makes sense to them.
Okay. So back to where we kind of started. You were the first
Heavy
truck on the
apparatus.
scene.
Correct.
Were you guys in quarters?
No, we were actually getting lunch over in Aspen Hill. So we were kind of concerned about not being first due on our own house fire. So we were listening to see where Tower 18 was.
Okay. And what kind of things are you thinking about going down the road? Like, you're looking at the NBC, you're seeing the updates.
Right.
What are you communicating with your driver and the tillerman?
We've run several calls back in this area, so we know the area pretty well back where this house was. And from a couple blocks away, we could see the smoke. So we knew we had work right away, and getting the reports from the on-scene, from the ambulance and the chase car, we knew that we had a lot. And as soon as we pulled up, we saw the fire venting through the roof, so we knew we had a lot of truck work to do.
Okay.
And so that's why we took a position in the driveway, and having seasoned guys on the truck helps with, we know what we need to do. We know we need to get in there and open up for the engine company.
Did you make contact with the resident, or?
No, we heard from the people on scene initially that the resident was out, that everyone was out, and we went in realizing that we're going to end up having to do a search, and command gave us that order.
Any forcible entry issues?
No, we had to take the front screen door off, but other than that, and then later on in the incident, we had to work on the garage door.
Okay, and it was an occupied structure?
Yes.
But it was under construction, is that correct?
There was some construction being done on the Charlie side.
Okay, but nothing, but it was, they were living in it like a regular
Correct.
old house?
Correct.
And smoke conditions on the first floor?
There was some decent smoke as soon as you went in the door, but the fire was pretty up in the attic area.
Most of the bulk
Correct.
of the fire was in
Correct.
the attic space?
Correct.
Okay. Moving to you, same questions to you, Captain Dominic, as an engine officer that wasn't working in your normal spot. Can you kind of walk me through? Were you guys in quarters?
Yeah, we were in quarters. I had a whole crew who I really didn't know. The driver I wasn't familiar with.
Was it the regular wagon driver?
He's a wagon. No, it wasn't the
Okay.
master. He's a wagon driver. The E3 guy, this turned out to be his first fire. The E4 guy I've kind of worked with once or twice in the last several years. Excuse me. So, just coming from their area, and I think the guy who was driving 21's wagon was new to the station too.
Okay.
So I had
so
to give
you
him,
had to almost all the direction.
Yeah, had to give him more directions than I'm used to with working here, or even the master down there. So once we got there, I gave him a layout, and actually I kind of confused myself because I'm used to coming in from this way, thinking there's going to be an engine in front of me. So we actually laid out past a hydrant. It happens.
Yeah.
But we got there, told them I wanted the 300-foot line stretched to the rear, and I went ahead of them just to make sure everything was good. Came back out, met them halfway the distance of the house, and they had the line on their shoulders, flaked it out, and went in with Tower 18.
Okay, so did you find it challenging that it's, and I don't know if challenging is the right word, but anything out of the ordinary about really being out of your element, working in a different place, working with some different guys? Did you talk to them or say anything to them? That
Not really,
you wouldn't
because
have, or you would have, that versus your normal crew.
I might give them a little more direction, but I know who their officer is, so I have that to fall back on and trust that they're going to be up to par.
Okay.
So I'm not going to be there bottle feeding the entire crew, the entire fire.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Captain Ford,
Yeah.
same questions to you.
Okay.
Kind of what you talked about going down the road. I mean, obviously you knew the neighborhood, right?
Yeah.
So-
Know the neighborhood
so-
well. I live in the neighborhood, so I knew exactly where it was. I had a car.
You're a regular driver?
No, I didn't have my regular driver, but I had a senior Fire 3, Brian Carpio, and he knows the area really well. So I just told him we're going up Georgia, we're going to take Hewitt, and then we're just practically following the battalion chief and engine. Then they went a little farther down. Since I knew the neighborhood, I took another street that was a little shorter to get there. And, once we got there, my third, he hopped off, grabbed the hook. I told him go around the Charlie side, see what we got. I got my stuff, thermal imager hooked, took a peek on the Delta side, then I went around the Bravo side, just to check to make sure there wasn't anything out of the ordinary. I do know in the neighborhood there's a lot of group homes, so I wanted to peek to make sure it wasn't a group home. I looked at the the house numbers. If you have large commercial house numbers, you know it's probably a group home, something to look for. So they had regular numbers, so I was sure it was just a regular residential. Went around the Charlie side, talked to Keith. We went and just started hooking the ceiling. And then I walked through.
Any forcible entry issues or access issues on the
No, we
Charlie
had a
side?
slider. We just broke the glass to the slider, went in. The engine was already in there from the Alpha side. They were in there.
Your engine?
Attic. Yeah.
Any concerns about opposing hand lines or anything like that, or?
No, because all the fire was in the attic. So when they came in, everybody just spraying water straight up. I mean, it vented. As soon as we got there, it already vented through the roof, so the heat had already lifted. Had some smoke conditions, but other than that, it's pretty
And
easy.
searches obviously proved to be negative.
Yes.
Okay. Chief, I'm going to kind of go to you, and I'm just going to refer to you and mix you in as it goes. And I don't want to say you're a brand new battalion chief, but you're one of the newer battalion chiefs, 2 years now, right?
Yep.
Tell me, and that's really good video that we have of you. Tell me what you're processing through going down the road from a battalion chief stance. And,
Sure.
and I think Chief Davis mentioned in the beginning, we have a captain's test coming up. So what are some things that you're looking for?
Yeah. So, I'm by myself. I can't take notes. It's hard to read the MDC while I'm driving. I was a float lieutenant here in Battalion 4, so I knew, as soon as the address went out, killer bees, I knew where I was going. But I need good information pushed to me, right? I don't need a lot of radio talk. I don't need 3 Side Charlie reports, right? I just need one good report. So I appreciate the ambulance got there, gave a good on-scene report. They dressed out. They didn't know if there was going to be a victim in there. I could have put them to work if necessary. Instead, they were just setting up the aid station. You saw them throw one ladder real quick. But on my way, I need to hear all the benchmarks, the things that are in that IRP, because when I get there, I can be behind the 8 ball. This is rare that I get there before everybody else, right? Now, I knew that the engine was out. They were at South Lawn. Didn't know where the truck was coming from, but I was surprised that I pulled up first.
So you're listening for
I am listening.
front
Yeah.
water supply, back
Yep.
water supply, initial on scene, status of occupants.
All of those things, and those were being made. When we get there, I need to know. I can't see past the front of the vehicle. I don't know what conditions are like on the number 1 floor. I need you to tell me that when you get inside. Do you have high heat conditions? Because it looks really bad from the outside. There's a lot of smoke and there's even a little fire, right?
Yeah.
So it looked like a real working event, but afterwards these guys were like, well, there wasn't a lot of heat. There was just a lot of smoke. And it was all consolidated in that attic space. I need to know that, right? It's an L-shaped home, so it's as you're looking left to right, it's garage, living room, kitchen, and then when you make the L, those are the bedrooms, right? So my concern is, are we going to be able to stop it? You'll hear me, I ask, can we hold this at the front door, or is it going to go into
Kind of
the living
saying, hey,
quarters?
is the left side of the house as I'm looking, the Bravo side of the house, or
Yeah.
we?
So those are
that's where
the
we're gonna make our
updates
stop.
that I need. Hey, we got water on the fire, right? Or we've got a lot of fire and we need a second hand line. Captain Dominic was there, so I knew I had 2 lines in place, 2 trucks
Pretty quick,
working.
too.
Pretty quick,
Pretty
yep.
quick. Yeah.
As you see the front of the house, it's just covered with trees on the street line, right, at the gutters. So truck 725, we don't normally throw the tiller truck in the front lawn like that, in the driveway, but that was the only way. If we would have needed that ladder truck for anything, that was the only way, because there were trees on both sides. That picture's kind of deceiving. But the tower came in, you saw it on the video. They wouldn't have been able to put their tower up.
Overhead wires, or just trees?
There are just trees there, yeah. So yeah, that's good positioning by them. We got our toolbox right there in the front yard. Had 2 command officers show up from Kensington right away. Gave me good reports. They were the first people to tell me that the building was under renovation. So that information's all good for me, because it's telling me, are we still in an offensive posture, or do I need to move to a defensive posture? But it looked like we had more than enough resources. We had a consolidated fire in that attic space. We had 2 hand lines. We had 2 trucks. So I felt comfortable with that.
What about basement? Is that?
So some may have a basement. I was pretty sure that was on a slab. You saw the ambulance crew come up to the window, and he told me 1 story in the rear walkout. So I don't know if that is walkout from the basement or walkout from the first floor, but I wasn't there to question him. He gave me good information that I could use, and later on I asked, hey, can someone just tell me, are we on a slab or do we have a basement?
So, Captain Ford, let's talk a little bit. Thank you.
Yep.
We'll talk a little bit about building construction style houses over there, and I'm just going to turn to you. I know it's not your first due area, but I'm going to turn to you because you live over there.
Yes.
You sent out an email that I found a little interesting, and I remember when I worked here, there being a lot of group home, or started in the beginning. That was when the group home thing was rising. And you also said something about house numbers. Can you kind of talk about that whole? Let's talk about the building construction and age and things like that.
It's ordinary house construction. Within the neighborhood, there's like 6 models, but that's one of the more popular models. And because it's all on one level, on a slab, 4 bedrooms in that little L shape, they're purchased a lot by companies and make them group homes. And one of the signs you'll see if it's a group home, a lot of times there'll be a lot of cars, and it'll have commercial building numbers on it. It'll be large numbers required by code compared to the usual 2 or 3 inch numbers that most people have on a house. So that's just a clue that it's going to be a group home.
And Captain Potter, do you want to add? It's and Captain Dominic, you can certainly also add to that with the quantity. Are there a lot of group homes over there?
In the area, yes. I don't know of too many in that general area, but we do have a lot of group homes in our first due.
Okay. An ordinary type 3 construction, right?
Yeah, correct. With aluminum wires.
With aluminum wiring.
Correct. And the houses are built in
Back
70s.
Yeah.
So
70s, 69 to 71.
So it's time that people are renovating these.
Yes. Oh, yeah. There's a lot of renovations going on. So
over there's a lot of renovations?
Yes. There are a lot of additions added on. So another thing, like you look at the house, you might want to walk around the back or side to see what's been added on to the house.
Okay.
Which, that's all over the county.
Yeah. I don't think it's just isolated to this place. If that was a group home, Tom, I'm going to ask you, would that have changed any of your plans or actions as the first really heavy apparatus?
The focus would have been to do the search to make sure nobody else was in there. We knew that one occupant was out, and we were told that there was no one else in there. But with a group home, that can easily be missed.
Certainly.
So that would have been my focus at that point.
Okay. And since Captain Dominic, you're the only guy that was on an engine company, heat levels on floor 1?
Minimal.
Okay, so your plan was
Everything
just
up in the attic.
kind of go in, isolated the attic, already vented, had the
It
fire
had
vented?
yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it was
So
through the
go
roof.
in, pull ceilings, apply water from the bottom.
Yeah.
What's your tack line? You pulled a 300-foot what?
Inch and a quarter, inch and a half. I can't remember what engine what it was, a Pierce or a
Okay.
or one of the older ones down.
Any problems putting that in service?
Nope. Everything went
Flow
very
issues, volume, anything like that?
The guys did a real good job getting it deployed, getting it charged, and advancing it in.
All right, so I'm going to turn the audio up here. Oh, no audio? So this is from, this is a helmet cam. And it gives us an idea of what was going on the Charlie side.
So I got a good report from Side Charlie, Captain Ford, Captain Dominic, both back there. They gave me a size up, and then they gave me their actions that they were doing. They were stretching to the rear and make an entry there. So I knew that things were going to darken down pretty soon, and they did. We had 2 lines flowing up in that attic space. It was just a lot of truck work that had to be done. As you can see, things are a mess back there. So the house was under renovation. That day they were replacing the soffits in the house right there. You can see some new wood burning there. So that was the renovation. That's good information, but I didn't know if there were, there was no sheetrock on the walls inside. I didn't know if there were holes on the floor. I didn't know. But I was
You're
able
saying
to,
that's why that's good information.
That's why that's good information. But even more would be what type of renovation. I mean, hey, we're back here doing some siding or some soffits is much different than we're moving interior walls.
Yeah.
So it was good. I made that announcement to everybody on the fire ground, just kind of give them a heads up that the house may not be how we expect it to be. So. Oh, Chief Davis
Yeah,
has a question.
go ahead, Chief.
We've never really talked about this before, and it's my question. So does that line have a smoothbore or a combination nozzle on it?
It's a combination nozzle.
Does that matter to you and not matter to you? You personally, right?
I'm not an engine person. I don't care what's on there as long as the water comes out. But I think for an attic fire,
Right.
I think it's good to have a combination nozzle because we didn't do it here, but you can just put that thing on a medium or wide fog, stick it up there, and let it eat for a couple minutes, and then the problem goes away.
Anybody else care?
So I am an engine company guy, and I like the versatility of the combination nozzle. So I don't know if I've ever put a smoothbore nozzle in service at a fire, actually. I would prefer there to be a fog nozzle, just because of what we can do with it.
Anybody else?
Well, this is a single-family, one-story house. If I had 8 or 10-foot ceilings or had a common cock loft, I probably would want a smoothbore nozzle for the penetration and reach versus the fog. But I'm no longer an engine guy.
Fire SUV.
Yeah.
Fire SUV. Yep.
Sorry about your
So I didn't mean to interrupt there, but
Yeah.
I mean, that was pretty good video, and it came to mind. So
And I think it was an inch. It looked like an inch and a half attack line to me.
so continue on. Sorry.
And we're in the process of making that transition on my engine. That's why. I asked. So, Chief, back to the whole push-pull of information. Do you want to expand upon that a little bit, and what makes or why certain things are important for you?
All right. So, again, just been doing this 2 years. Thought I was giving good information as an engine officer because I was hitting whatever my battalion chief told me to do or whatever the IRP stated. But now that I'm sitting in the car and I'm trying to get my arms around the situation, I'm looking for better information to be pushed to me. Again, the occupant status, right off the bat, I got a sigh of relief that we're not missing anybody.
Because that completely changes, potentially
it does.
completely changes
It
what
does.
we might do.
A lot of smoke and fire. I don't know if I didn't get out of the vehicle in this case. Sometimes I get out and take a quick peek. But, are we in an offensive state? When the first new engine officer says, hey, we're going to stretch a 300, we're going in the front door, I'm taking that as we're totally good in an offensive state. But what I'm looking for once he gets across that threshold is we got thick smoke conditions or we've got heavy heat conditions. Now, as I'm watching things unfold from the front seat, it's going to change my strategy and tactics. But
Does that change based on where you work?
Well,
I'm not really.
Yeah,
I'm just.
it's not my battalion.
Being familiar with
yeah,
the people.
This day was not my battalion. Was not my shift. I know all the players, but I've never had to sit down with them and said, "Hey, if we get a working fire today, I need you to say X, Y, and Z." Right? Where I sit with my officers and I send out videos and I ask specifically for them to push certain information to me. So, yeah, if you want me to speak less on the radio, you want me to stop asking you questions, just give me good information, like almost be ahead of the game. And in this fire, I got that. Most of the time I got that. I only had to ask once or twice for certain things. Now, those 2 command officers that got there first gave me good information.
Did they give you any different information than the unit officers were giving you?
No, not different. Some of it was exactly the same. It's okay. They may have not heard that transmission. Chief Polikoff, you see him in that video. He does his 360. He takes a couple pictures. He gets in the car. He shows me the pictures while he's explaining it to me. That's great because I didn't get a good side Charlie.
Are you looking for that? I mean, is that something, if you had an aide?
So later on in the incident, maybe 10 minutes into the incident, we get a FaceTime call from the safety officer. And now I've got live streaming video in the car with me. Now I can see where all the companies are operating. Now I can see the extent of the fire. So it was helpful. Could I have said to Chief Polikoff, hey, sit right here for a minute or two. Let me go put some eyes on the rear of the building. We could have done that, but we got the live video with the FaceTime. So that was helpful, right? Just as Captain Ford said, these could be any type of structures. They're older. They could have bump outs. They could have, a second floor that I can't see with those trees and stuff. So it's good to get that information because it's telling me where the fire is and where it could potentially go. And as you see those blue tarps, that's pretty much it. I know that's a lot, but
we're looking at the Charlie side of the house.
That L shape of the house.
A week or so after the fire, correct?
Yeah. The L shape of that house goes towards the street, and that's all the bedrooms in there. So we made a pretty good stop right there. Yeah, I think it burned for a little while. Again, the construction crew had to alert the occupant that she had a fire up there, and then she called 911. I think they called 911, and we were there pretty quick. Just because the one engine was out of place, didn't have a significant outcome because 18 was right there to pick it up.
Was the Captain Dominic, was the first engine there when you arrived?
Yes.
Okay. So they were in service when
Yeah.
you're running your lines?
Yeah, when we were around side Charlie getting ready to make entry, I remember seeing a hose string coming up through the roof and them starting to knock fire.
Yep.
And actually, once we advanced inside, I met up with Lieutenant Aquino, and we kind of worked out a quick game plan. They were going to go to a different place in the house, and we were going to go to a different place since we figured we had most of that fire knocked already.
Was most of the ceiling intact?
I don't know. When I got in there was already a hole, and Alex was already in there, so I don't know how much of that he'd pulled prior to us getting in there.
Okay. Do you you carry a hook?
Yeah, I had a Halligan bar with me. Yep, always.
Is it long enough to hit the ceiling?
Why? Because I'm short.
I'm short too. So.
Yeah, and if it's not, stand on the chair. But yeah, it was.
Okay. I didn't know if you were able to do that to help.
Yeah, and I always carry it with me the few times I ride the engine. Just you might have to pop a door.
Yeah.
You need a tool with you.
Yeah.
Or something. If you're there by yourself.
Did you have a thermal imager?
I did not.
Did any of you have a thermal imager?
I had a thermal imager.
Did you use it?
No.
Okay. Okay. Tom, did you?
No.
All right. I just didn't know how it. I guess I'm looking for how it performed.
Yeah.
So, Chief Blake talked a little bit about what he's looking for. I'm going to ask the three of you collectively, and whoever wants to answer, what are some things that you're looking for from them being battalion chief or command officers?
Well, it really depends on who the command officer is. We work well with our battalion chief, or whoever our command officer is. But our battalion chief, we know his expectations. We know that as battalion chief was saying, he wants certain things, and our battalion chief wants certain things, and we give him that information, and he lets us do our job. And if we have a battalion chief that's not normally ours, if there's something different that they want, we're more than happy to give it to them. We just want to know their expectations, and it could be in the daily lineup. Hey, this is what. That's fine.
Okay. You too?
Give us time to accomplish the tasks that you assign us. Don't nitpick us. Don't ask us every 2 minutes for a status report. I mean, it sounds like I'm being mean here, but it's the truth.
Yeah, no.
Don't nitpick us. Give us time to accomplish the tasks. If you feel that you have to nitpick us all the time, then for some reason they don't trust us. That's how we feel as company officers. Tell us what you want done. Leave us alone. Give it a couple minutes. If things aren't changing, then find out what's going on.
Do you find that hard to do, Chief?
So I'm trying to be better in regards to I'm following the IDRs, right? So my boss is listening.
Yeah.
So at a 10-minute mark, they're going to give me an IDR. I'm going to give them a report. If I don't have some of that information, then the report isn't full, right? So that's why I may ask you for additional. At that 20-minute mark for, 90+% of our fires, we're going to have water on the fire. We're going to have a search done, those things. So I use that IDR to then prompt, so I'm looking at a clock. I got a clock running. So when I see, 8 minutes, 9 minutes, gee, I'm not sure if I heard X or Y. Let me ask them, right? So it's more about not me asking you if you've done your job, but have I done my job? Have I made sure that the search was done? Do we have someone going in for the secondary? Is there water supply issues? Is one hand line enough? Do I have too many people in the building, right? So, tactically.
And I think a lot of times, from at least my perspective,
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys, that seems to be the case.
Yeah, so
There's just straight up too many people.
Yeah,
30 people are too many people to be.
I guess that's a
Always so many people.
what a problem to have too many people,
I would agree
right?
with that.
So I know that we are, trying to tactically stage more crews and let first due companies get in, investigate, find the problem, put a solution in place. You can do that here, at this fire, I'm really not assigning many companies. We have an IRP that's assigned. Like if I didn't show up, 2 hand lines would go to the front of the building and a ladder truck, and maybe 2 hand lines would go to the rear of the building and a ladder truck. I mean, it's set out for us. So sometimes I'm just checking to make sure people are where they are, because accountability is my primary function. I have accountability and strategy and tactics. Accountability of the residents and accountability of our personnel. And so if you're the first due engine company and you're not where you're supposed to be, I need to know that. And sometimes you just tell me that, right? Like we're moving our line to here. We're moving our line to there. At least I know where you are. So those are important things for me. You go to a garden apartment, a mid-rise, a high-rise, me personally, I'm going to probably let crews move to their assigned positions, because if we get to the 16th floor of a building and we do have a working fire, you don't want anybody tactically staged outside. So here, a real easy fire for our companies to handle.
Yeah. And that's kind of the nice thing about this. This isn't as complicated as something like the Twin Brook
It resolved itself quickly to the point where I could then start using a crew from the rapid intervention to assist. Captain Potter was mentioning they had to open the garage door. They had to make sure that there was no extension in that garage. So we needed a truck to operate in there. We needed a hand line in there. So, the significant volume of fire had been extinguished. We were just in an overall.
They're just other tasks.
There were other tasks that needed to be done, yeah.
And do you, how do you set up, like, who does your extra tasks?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I have to look at my roster sometimes, because I just like I know all these players, I can ask them to do anything, but we're a young department. I don't know all the players in the organization now. So you're saying on the assignment or, on the roster, right? When I if things aren't going that well and I need some worker bees to go in there, I may just pick specific companies.
May
handpick those people. I think that's obvious throughout the organization.
Probably.
Yeah.
I would say so. I think it's something to highlight. I want to highlight it again. the difference between, or when we know, Captain Ford, you said it, how do we know that these places are commercial places? Like, as a officer, as a unit officer coming up there, an indicator to you, you said, you know, a lot of vehicles, you said something about the house numbers.
Yeah.
And I guess, truthfully, I don't know if I would have thought of that, but something good to highlight. So the bigger house numbers.
Yeah, the commercial numbers are clear sign that it has to be some type of business. And when you see those houses, especially in my neighborhoods, you see those numbers, you know it's going to be a group home or some type of business has to be there. And a lot of times, if you see a lot of vehicles, a lot of times more vehicles in the driveway, will
Indicating there might be some people, workers or something
a lot
like
of workers,
that.
a lot of nurses,
visitors,
stuff like that. Yep. And sometimes you'll even see, you know, if there's certain handrails or ramps and stuff like that. Usually, a lot of the group homes have those as well.
Okay. So, thinking back or thinking about this event, have two questions here. Number one, have you ever run a fire like this before in the same type of structure? And then the second half of the question is going to be, if you were to change any of your actions, what would those changes be?
Oh,
Yeah, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I've run plenty of fires.
And I'm not saying have you run a fire
Right.
before. That's not,
Yeah.
you know.
In these types of houses?
Yeah.
Yeah, run them all the time. It's probably one of the easier ones. It's one story. I mean, it's not even really, we threw some ladder to the roof, but nobody was going to the roof. We already knew that. We didn't need to throw anything to the second floor. And once I went in with my bar, I verified, hit the floor with my bar to verify that it was on a slab. So right now, no basement concerns. So it was pretty easy. What was your second part of your question?
What would you change? The actions that you did at this fire, would you change any actions, and what did you do and what would you change?
Nothing really I would change. Maybe just listening to the chief, I probably would have communicated a little better, you know, right off the bat, told them that they were doing some type of construction to the house.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I've been to numerous fires in these style houses. I think all of us have.
Yeah.
It's a bread and butter construction style in the county. I mean, like I said earlier, I laid past a hydrant. I would have actually laid out from that hydrant I drove past. But other than that, you know, the guys from 20.
But I don't even think that's a big deal.
It is to me.
Water is water.
It
right?
is to me. You know, it's extra work at the end. But you know, the guys from 21 did a great job. Yeah. So
Would you communicate differently with anybody on your crew? The driver, the guys in the back of the fire truck?
I'm not one to pre-plan every call we go on with people, and especially because I was there for 10 hours that day. So one thing I did tell them was, you know, when we get to a fire, I'll tell you what line I want pulled, because I need to verify for myself and come up with my own game plan in my head about what we're going to do. This one was easy because we were third due, and I knew we were going to the rear. So I was, you know, somewhat familiar with the neighborhood. So I told them what line I wanted pulled, went and just...
Was a 300 too much?
I don't... No, because we had that whole backyard. So no, we had plenty of space to flake it out. We never really had any problems. I mean, we had enough to, you know, come the whole way through the house and end up back on the front porch eventually, and pull some of the soffit up there because we had reported some fire up there. Mm-hmm. Well, 18 I think was like in the bedroom part of the house.
Bedroom part, yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't really have done anything different. I don't think anything different would have changed the outcome.
Okay.
Yeah, everybody did a great job.
And that's
like
good. That's what you want, right?
It was a simple fire.
Yeah.
You know, nothing too crazy or outlandish that popped up.
Captain Potter?
Same thing. I don't know if we would have done anything differently. The truck crew knew their job. They did what they needed to do. We got in there. We pulled the ceilings fast to give the engine company a place to hit the fire. And communication, I think, went well between the truck crews, between us and the engine crews. You know, we opened up, we found fire. You know, on front soffits and in the garage, and you know, I don't think we would have done anything different.
Yeah, and really sounds to me an indication of, hey, if companies are going where they're supposed to be going, right, most of our problems go away.
Right.
You know, it's designed for 99% or whatever of the calls, the IRP.
Right.
Chief, from your stance,
Yeah.
Anything that you would have done different?
You know, so I have benchmarks that I have to meet, right? So I need to get a par better, right? So that's what I've been changing myself to that 20-minute mark. That's when I'm listening for that IDR, and I'm gonna, make sure that we're still good in our status, if we're still in an offensive status, and then start rotating crews.
And that's
right?
where your LCAN is coming in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, when we're giving that information in that LCAN form, I get a lot of information to then make decisions with. So, fiber alerts are going off. I need those people out, right? And people were working there for a good 5-10 minutes. It was a lot of work, and then there was little to no work, just a lot of overhaul.
Yeah.
So, I'm always trying to do a better accountability of our personnel. Doesn't matter if it's small, medium, or large. And that's why, like I said before, I use that IDR as a reminder for me. So when I am asking you, your LCAN, I'm trying to do my job. I'm not asking you to do anything different in your job. Still squirt water, pull ceilings and stuff. But that 2nd Battalion chief in the car helps me close those gaps. I can't do anything about how quick he gets there, or, So the 2 command officers in there help with the vision of, literally the vision of the scene and how we're going to meet our objectives. So, if you're asking me, I need to have a better accountability of where everybody is, not just physically in the building, but what their status is. I had to put people back to work. We came out, we did some rehab, and, I'm going to probably use the companies that are familiar and first due, because I'm trying to maybe put some units in service. So I need to get those guys out, get them into rehab, and make sure they're ready. And I ask them, are you ready to go back to work? Because I got a lot of work to do still. It's not the glorious stuff. It's a lot of overhaul, some salvage for those bedrooms and stuff. So, yep. So accountability and moving people through rehab.
And we, thank you.
You know what else we did at, this fire, and it's new, and we're implementing it as much as possible, but these guys were filthy when they came out. Filthy. Just covered with insulation and stuff. So we had 18 set up their booster line to put people through decon. When do you do that? Do you do that right after
they do it here?
We did it towards the end. Before I released companies, I made the announcement, everybody's got to go through rehab, but everybody also has to go through decon. It's just not worth jumping in the vehicle covered in this stuff when we have a way to remove it. So,
or if we do it too early, now I'm going in there.
Yeah, now you're all wet, and now I'm sending you back in. Yeah. So it worked out well, but 18's line right there in the street, you couldn't miss it, right? You couldn't walk by it. So we did that towards the end of the.
Is that something that you think that you're going to begin to incorporate a little more?
I'm trying to incorporate it, but it's kind of right now I'm doing it on a needs basis. I mean, I could see from across the street, these guys were covered in insulation, so.
Good. So one last thing, I think that, Chief, did you have a question?
I have 2, but one is related, but I want some folks to talk about it, and then I have one I'm going to save for the end.
Okay.
So you tell me one.
The first one.
So we got three captains that say they ride the ladder truck, right, a fair amount of time, if not all the time.
They're scared. Yeah.
Most of the time. Right, so let's just talk about, right, arriving first on that ladder truck on a working fire in a single-family dwelling, and there's no engine with you.
Captain Potter?
Right. What I know you have a plan. I know that it's happened already before, right? But I'm talking like you don't even see the engine. Pretty clear you got a fire, and you got 3 people, right? What's your general plan? What are you doing there?
Status occupancy.
Right.
We're
still going through our checklist of what's the accountability of the residents. They're our primary concern. Try to find the seat of the fire.
Yeah, so I'm going to say there's somebody inside. The lady out front says my husband is in there.
Try to get any information. Relay that to the incoming units and the command officers. And if there's somebody in there, then Really, depending on my crew, we may have affect a rescue. Depends on the information I can pull from them.
Yeah, if somebody's in there, we're affecting a rescue. I mean, I want to talk to her and like, where in the house is he? Can you point, is he in this room? What part of the house? And that determines where I'm going to enter at to make the rescue.
Right.
Would you say the same thing, Captain Dominic?
Why are you asking me like that? Yeah, I do. I'd get as much information as we could from the
I'm a
wife.
wagon guy, right? So.
I'm going to have my driver do a 360, meet us around front. We have 2 water cans and a water cooler on the ladder truck. We're going to take those in.
Do the best we can.
Do the best we can. Hopefully make the rescue and then have enough water left to hold the fire in check as we're doing that, or, let us get in as far as we can. I mean, that's why we're here. We're an insurance policy for the people who pay our salaries. Right?
Yeah, something like last week, right? Last week, that was high-risk event on those water rescues, right? A high-risk event for us is arrival without an engine company and people trapped, and there's a fire in that joint, right? What are you doing?
Yeah.
We expect you to go, right? But
Yeah, go in and rescue. I mean, get as much information. Where's your husband at? Is he in the bedroom? Is he in the back of the house? Where he is? That determines where I'm going to enter to go make the rescue.
I want to add how to get there too. Like,
Correct.
Hey, where's he at, and how? Or just like the fire, where's the fire at, and how do I get there?
Right.
Yeah. I mean, on this house, it's it's pretty simple because it's
Circle.
one level.
story. Yep.
Is he in that room? I'm going through that window and grab him there.
Right.
So I want to add, and that's probably not a bad way to really fold into your ambulance.
Right.
And the chief mentioned the ambulance crew was there, standing there in gear.
Correct.
Had talked to the resident.
Correct.
Is that coming from you? Or is that guidance that you give?
We have discussed with the shift, the expectations of if they're going to be 2 out, they need to be dressed, ready to go, and so they know that. I didn't speak to them that shift, so it's something that they knew. And being first on the scene, I was glad to hear that they gave the information that they did.
Yeah.
Because that did help.
What about on the B shift? Is that something that
Yeah.
take your gear out of your red bag and put it ready to go on the ambulance?
Show up and they're ready to work, either as the 2 out,
or even to hump line or whatever?
hump line, throw ladders.
Yeah.
We go
Super
over that with
important.
all the younger guys and girls. They know that they're firefighters first.
Yeah.
And that's what the job is.
Okay.
You can set up the aid station 10 minutes after the fact, but initially, when companies are short, we have a lot of stuff we need to do, and they're there to help us.
Yeah. Yeah.
You saw that ambulance crew, one guy from the ambulance crew. He's the first guy to get a ladder, right? He opens that truck air brake stop, and he's the first guy to get the ladder out and start moving.
Yeah.
So that's what we're looking for, right?
Yeah.
We don't have the.
And I talk about it with my company,
Yeah.
even detailed aim, whatever.
Yep.
Put your gear on. Take it out of the bag and put it on. Chief, you're before we wrap up, your second question.
I would say you should mostly wrap up and then let me ask the question.
Okay.
And then you can close.
This is a
So I was just going to wrap up.
It's a well-scripted event.
This is a coffee table of fire.
Camera off for this.
All right, so basically, Chief Grinder wanted to know if
God.
Captain Dominic actually knows who did win the hockey game last night.
I did, Michael. And in case Dave Anderson does not know, it was the Penguins.
All right, very good.
Apparently the refs are in the bag earlier this year, David.
There you go.
All right.
Feel free to close out.
Okay. So, again, thank you guys for coming in. Thank you for sharing your story. Chief, thank you for coming in and just talking about what you're looking for from our company officers and from the companies as a whole.
Yeah.
It is important to understand what you're looking for, because the truth of the matter is it might change what I do a little. It probably won't change what I do, but at least change what I communicate.
You'll understand when I call you to the car what I'm talking about.
Issue my ass chewing. Yeah.
So just one other thing is this was a very plain Jane house, right? 1-story L-frame. Please tell me and other command officers when you're dealing with something that's out of the ordinary, these hybrid townhouses, okay, where it's, first 2 floors are one residence and the other 2 floors are another residence, or there is no side Charlie access to the upper floors, because I'm seem to be running a lot of hybrid calls.
Yeah.
and I think I'm dealing with a 2-story garden apartment or a 3-story townhouse, and then after the fact, oh, you guys were really operating on this floor or that floor. So, you know, when I say push good information, it may be, hey, Chief, be advised, this is a piggyback or this is an up and over, you know, and we should all be on the same.
The flip side of that is we don't really define anywhere
I know.
what
And I
those
think we're,
things are.
yeah, and I think we're going to work on that.
Yeah. Outside of just actively talking about
Yeah.
them. So thank you all for coming in and sharing your story. I do want to remind everybody that on November, first of all, the COPDI, if you're here for credit, just remind you to sign out again with your fire department ID. November 2nd, the Challenges in the Street is at the Training Academy. It will be TRT stuff. And then at some point next month, and we're still working on a date, we're going to do the Laytonsville Road house explosion. Do a boss talk with that. So until then, thank you very much. Have a good day.
you.